So guys, do any of you remember a show called Life After People? Truly, it was a highlight of a young escort Jolet's life. It had a pretty simple premise, just describing what would happen to the stuff we'd leave behind if one day we were Thanos snapped out of existence, and all the while it was mixed with some pretty okay CGI for the time, and some of the CGI of all time. Plus, yes, it was mainly just an excuse to show famous landmarks collapsing, but there was also some science mixed in there. And what I want to do today is extract some of that science and make a maybe fun video theorizing what actually could be the last evidence of humanity. Again, in a scenario where we just fell into the back rooms at the exact same time. Two important things though just before we start. Number one, this video is going to live and die by the word estimate, and this isn't going to be an exact science. It's really hard to find reliable information, and hell, the show itself sometimes wasn't the brightest.
With no human predators, rattlesnakes are growing to enormous sizes.
And number two, there's probably a lot of stuff I haven't thought to include, but hey, that's what the comment section's for. So without further ado, let's begin. I think our larger scale constructions is a good place to start, you know, your houses, bridges, skyscrapers, that sort of thing. To set a baseline, out of the millions of structures we've built over the decades, what will we have after 500 years? Basically nothing. Like, I can't emphasize this enough, without proper maintenance, that short time frame will see the end of most standard structures, and there's a variety of reasons why. Plants do be growing, freeze-thaw cycles cause more issues, anything near the ocean is getting spit roasted by salt and rising sea levels, earthquakes will still exist, fires will still exist, and worst of all, some genius decided everything should be made of steel. Steel obviously rusts, and now you've got rusty supports, and there you go, you're gone. To find anything still standing after that long, you'll have to look for the pure of hearts, namely pure concrete. And out of all the examples to choose from, the Hoover Dam is by far the best. Built in the 1940s with a liberal amount of concrete, over 6 million tons, the damn thing was really made to last a long time. Experts theorize the dam could last up to 10,000 years before finally collapsing in what would be probably the last great collapse the planet will ever bear witness to. Because the concrete used was not reinforced, there's no angry little demon hiding away inside weakening the dam from within, hence its potential longevity. Pretty neat, right? Like, what large-scale construction project could last anywhere close to that length, except for, like, I don't know, the underground nuclear disposal site in Finland, which needs to hold radioactive waste for 100,000 years, but to be fair, it is kind of cheating according to my arbitrary rules, you know, being underground and everything. Thankfully though, we don't need to give Finland any recognition as the Lord intended, because Egypt had us covered 5,000 years ago. Listen, I know it's a generic answer to say, yeah, the pyramids are gonna last longer than just about everything else, but you can't blame me. The Egyptians just really cooked when they looked at a square and said, 4 lines in this economy? I don't think so. Add in the fact all the building materials are incredibly resilient to corrosion, and that it's in a dry environment, it's just kind of perfect for longevity. In fact, the erosion is so slow and the triangle is such a broken shape in the building meta that some generous estimates say the pyramids may still be here after 100,000 years, or perhaps going as far as 1,000,000. Caveat unfortunately being that they will be buried under the Sahara sands long before they're fully gone, but that's why the rules are arbitrary. However, kind of irrelevant, as there's one more thing to look at. Not actually a building, more of a monument, and a questionable one at that if you're of Lakota, Cheyenne, or Arapaho descent. That's right kids, desecrating sacred land never felt better than when Mount Rushmore was being carved out of the very corrosive resistant granite of Black kill. And due to that fact, it's estimated again to be able to survive between 200,000 to 2 million years, and during that time it will remain somewhat recognizable as something we built. So, hooray! In terms of big landmarks that will remain visible above ground, Mount Rushmore is probably the one that will last the longest. Yay! Crazy thing is though, even after it's completely faded away and resembles nothing more than just a mere mountain again, all the while the rubble of our former homes have eroded into just rocks and pebbles, there'll still be other things left to show we were here. But instead of big monuments, it'll be a little more subtle, and the estimates will be a lot estimate-y. Allow me to introduce to you my good friend Oatsy. Oh hey guys, I'm really happy to be here. Hey Oatsy, can you tell the lovely people at home the best thing about being a perfectly preserved corpse that's over 5,000 years old? Probably the incredibly chilly temperatures keeping me Oatsy-doatsy. So yeah, sub-zero environments, they're pretty cool. They can keep us meatbags recognizable for a very long time, and with the process of decomposition all but halted, the determining factor on how long a mummy frozen in an ideal environment can last is whether or not the area it's in remains frozen. If it does, then while I couldn't find any exact data, Oatsy was so well preserved we knew what he ate on the day that he died, so if that's anything to go by, we could be looking at an indefinite period of time in which corpses might still be able to be found. But even if Oatsy is OTKO'd by the elements along with the rest of us meatbags, we still do have a backup in the form of the deviant arts we leave behind. Statues, specifically bronze ones, are, like a lot of other materials mentioned in this video, very resilient to corrosion. This is something again that won't easily be broken down by the elements, and while it might be buried under the earth, it could last hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of years. But personally, I think cave paintings are a better example. You see, caves, specifically ones that have had their entrances closed to the outside world, are like nature's unethical daycare, providing a stable, unchanging environment that allows anything within it to remain safe. Because it just so happens that that particular unchanging environment is perfect for preservation. There are cave paintings up to 40,000 years old that look almost brand new, and so long as the cave they're in remains sealed, that's how they'll stay. See, we're at a point now where to try and judge how long something can last, I can't just say X amount of years, because what would destroy the art is if the cave was opened up to the world. So I can just hit you with a little bit of Schrodinger's cave and say, we don't know if it's going to stay closed or open, and if it does open, then the art could be destroyed within 100 years. If it stays closed forever, it could last indefinitely. But yeah, I'll agree, just saying, oh well, if everything lines up perfectly, this thing and this thing can last forever isn't the most satisfying conclusion. However though, you'd be surprised by the amount of stuff that I can somewhat confidently say will last millions upon millions of years regardless of the environment. Gold looks at the very concept of corrosion and says, personally, I wouldn't, and gold bars would definitely be seen as an example we'd been here. Smaller monuments carved out of stone like the Easter Island heads or Stonehenge could still be recognizable for a very long time, and even food like pure unpasturated honey, so long as the glass it's in is sealed and doesn't break, could still be eaten millions of years later. Oh, and by the way, speaking of the honey, I have channel memberships. Now there is one problem with practically everything I've mentioned in this entire video, excluding humans who again need very specific conditions to last anywhere near as long as some of the other stuff. The Hoover Dam is probably the most complex thing here, and it's only going to be around for at most another 10,000 years, and then what have we got after that? Some gold that's been manipulated into bar form, paintings by some old dudes, or big rocks? The real interesting question at this point is, could anything modern, like modern technology from the last 50 or so years, survive that long? Well, on Earth itself, probably not, unfortunately. Again, anything complex to that nature would break down after 10,000 years. No, in order to see anything like that will survive millions of years, and ironically will be the very limit of our staying power, is among the stars. I mean, think about it. In space, there's no weather, no bacteria, no way for things to break down. And this will make the Moon Rover the most reliable car of all time, along with all the other junk we left on the Moon. Hell, barring a very unfortunate meteor strike, which is slightly more likely now than when I first started writing this script, that car could still be there until the time of the Earth and the Moon comes to an end. But that then leads us to the grand final question of this video. Can we as a species last even longer than the Earth itself? Now, I'm gonna be real, this last one is stretching further than Elastigirl, but the Voyager craft is set free from this failed planet if it avoided all obstacles and never got hit by an asteroid or sucked into the orbit of a planet or a sun, could theoretically be the last remnants of humanity. Now, let me be clear, I'm not referring to the information stored on the disk inside of the craft, that would be useless after a few million years. I'm referring instead to the craft itself, because it's the same philosophy as with the Moon Rover, just minus the Moon and the rover. Within the vacuum of space where everything is more or less at a dead stop, the Voyager craft could just keep going and going. An example of something man-made that just aimlessly floats through the cosmos. As our world and moon and whatever could still be left there is being thawed by the sun as it goes supernova, this humble little craft could maybe, just maybe, still be out there. A testament to just how long our longevity really is. Or maybe I'm completely wrong, who's to say? Honestly, that's kind of the vibe for the entire video, not gonna lie. Like I said at the very start, there's a very little exact science to go off here, it's a lot of just speculation, and I'm certain there's some mistakes I've made. But more importantly, I do genuinely find this stuff interesting, and I want to see it explored more. So if any of you do have any ideas of stuff that could last an extreme amount of time, or corrections that need to be made, then please do consider leaving a comment. Or hell, if you have the knowledge, make your own video and consider this one a starting point and go from there with more information and more stuff. Because the life after people concept is just so incredibly interesting, not really asking why we went away or how we go away, but what happens to the stuff we leave behind. And just before we go, a massive shout out to my channel members / Patreons. You are all awesome and I really do appreciate your support. If any of you are interested, I'd recommend clicking the join button down below. I'm more prioritizing channel memberships now. I think it's just better. It just seems to work a bit easier. So that's typically what I'll be promoting in the future. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a fantastic day, lads and ladies, and I'll see you all later. Bye bye.